Pardon me. Allergies. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. Now, as this is the morning before the work week starts, at least for me, we're actually doing this video in the morning for once. That's right, folks. We are going back to that horrific place of horrors that is known as the JRC. And we are continuing my morbid fascination with how the mainstream media has been handling, or in some cases very much not handling, the coverage of the overturn of the FDA ban. Now, before we get started, as always, folks, the link to the article is going to be found in the description, as well as other pertinent links when it comes to this case, hashtags to follow, and as always, to shut the Judge Rotenberg Center down petition that is on change.org. If you haven't already signed it, please do. And also, folks, warning, when we are discussing the JRC, there will be vivid descriptions and actual court-approved video footage of, at some points, people with disabilities being abused and tortured. If you have young children present, please, pardon me, use your headphones, please. Very important. Alright, so without further ado, we are going to the NBC News website. Remember, this was the only website that actually reported about the fact that the FDA ban back in of March 2020 was not being enforced. They reported on this back in April. So I'm hoping against hope that for once we're going to get a very accurate and actually well investigated article. We'll see. Appeals court axes FDA ban of electric shock on the disabled. The judge's 2-1 decision this week will allow the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center in Canton, Mass. To continue using shock devices on its residents. Okay, I already like the tone of this article. It sounds like there's going to be no bullshit. Here's to hoping. By IDL Kaplan and the Associated Press. This was released July the 9th, by the way. So just a couple days after the news went viral. A federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. overturned the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's ban on the use of the electric shock devices on people with mental disabilities by a Massachusetts residential school. Finally, a freaking publication that uses the correct terminology. Oh my God, it's a miracle. Moving on. The judge's 2-1 decision this week will allow the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center in Canton, Mass. to continue using shock devices on its residents. The center, which serves a mix of children and adults with severe developmental and emotional disabilities, has been one of the most controversial institutions for people with disabilities in the country for half a century. The NBC News covered the FDA's years-long effort to stop the school's use of the devices. Now, they say severe developmental and emotional disabilities, but not everyone at the JRC is severe. Not even all the people who are put on the devices are severe. Just wanted to make sure to note that. And this is my coworker. He says hi and leaps. You're supposed to help. Silly cat. Anyways. Okay, so where was I? Okay, we read through that paragraph. Okay. It's morning. This is what you get in the morning. In early March last year, the FDA took the rare step of banning the device, finding that the significant risk of harm outweighed any medical benefit that it could bring, which is none. There is literally no medical benefit. None, zilch, nada. God. Finding that the significant risk of harm outweighed any medical benefit it could bring. It is only the third such ban in the agency's history, and a well-merited one, a well-researched one. While it applied to a category of electrical stimulation devices used for self-injurious or aggressive behavior, the agency noted that the one facility in the country uses such devices, the Judge Rotenberg Center. But with how things have gone recently, who knows? Other schools have been talking. God help us all. The center decried the ban and petitioned a federal court to review it. The judge's majority opinion in the case Tuesday overturned that ban, stating the FDA cannot ban the use of electric shock on intellectually disabled people because federal law restricts the agency from interfering with the practice of medicine, which is regulated by the states. Oh, so there's no federal laws in place to protect people from invalid and awful medicine practice. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me? None whatsoever? Because I can think of a few just off the top of my head, and it's just on the privacy side of medicine. It comes from my days of working for the Department of Mental Health. It's called HIPAA. HIPAA is, by the way, folks, the law in regards to your privacy, in regards to your medical information. It is a federal law. States are not even allowed to question HIPAA law. There's a few other federal laws that are put out there to protect people for medical malpractice. But yet, the FDA, who was literally created for instances such as this, and you are telling them, no, you don't have the authority to do what we created you to do. Can somebody explain me the DC court's logic? Why does the FDA even exist then? If the FDA has no authority to regulate the food and drugs and other medical devices, why the hell do they even exist? Explain that, please, somebody. Anyways, that's not NBC News. I'm just never going to understand that logic, like, ever. Anyways. We conclude that the FDA lacks the statutory authority to ban a medical device for a particular use, the majority judges wrote. Then they don't have any authority at all. They don't have any authority at all. If they can't be given the authority in order to do and enforce their mandates, why do they exist? Because at that point, they have no authority to protect anyone from anything. You don't know the dangerous slope this has put not just the disability community, but everyone else on. The Judge Rotenberg Center has somehow had it so that the DC Circuit Court has declared the FDA's authority as invalid. Think about the repercussions of that. I'll let it sink in. Okay, moving on. Michael Flamia, the center's attorney. God, I hate that guy. Every time I hear his name, I don't know if I want to vomit or hit something. The center's attorney said that the Rotenberg leaders are content with the ruling. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are now content to not only get $285,000 a head, but now they get to torture them on top of it. Sadists, evil sons of bitches. How are they any different from the people who chained the folks with Down syndrome to a radiator and pocketed the Social Security checks again? Oh yeah, that's right. They're not. It's all racket. It's a racket. It's dehumanizing. It's torture. God, I could go on. I will go on, but in the next video. Okay. Which will allow its workers to continue giving electric shocks to a portion of their residents to correct aggressive or self-harming behavior when other measures have failed. It's bullshit. Have they used these other measures? No. But we're supposed to take their word that they have. We are to completely disregard the independent investigative studies that have been done in this school and take the JRC's word that all measures have been exhausted. Bullshit. We are supposed to take their word that it is a last result. Bullshit. And this is not just based on the word of some survivors, by the way, folks. I like my facts. And there has been numerous investigative reports from private agencies that have noted as well that it is bullshit. It has been noted by their own notes, that it's bullshit. Because I'm sorry, when in the name of God is it a good idea, and why is it considered a last resort when you are instructed to shock a child for standing up out of their seat without permission? Seriously? God. No, I get a flashback to my childhood. You want to know what got me to sit down? When my mom would say, sit down and shut the hell up. Worked every time. Like a charm, it was magic. God. Sorry, I'm not awake and I'm kind of in a mood. Disability rights activists. Finally, somebody who gets it right. Somebody who says something other than opponents. Disability rights activists, former residents, and the state of Massachusetts have for decades pushed to stop the use of the device. That's the only place where you get it wrong, NBC News. Some people who have half a brain and a heart within the Massachusetts legislature have tried to stop it. The majority of the representatives in the state, though, continue to bend over backwards to protect these people. Other than that, you've been spot on so far. I am glad to see it. Thank God one of you is actually doing their due damn diligence. Called a graduated electronic declator, GED, or shut down the school altogether. The FDA assembled a panel of experts to study the GED, held hearings, and received thousands of pages of testimony and documentation from the school. After 2 years, the FDA announced it would ban the GED, but took another 4 years to finalize the rule. God, howdy, thank you, Jesus. It's finally somebody who actually knows this tell. Opponents point to a history of scandals as examples of how the GED can be abused and why the school should be shuttered. In one of a case in 2002, a student was tied to a restraint board for 7 hours and shocked 31 times after he didn't take off his jacket when told to. 5 years later, another student was shocked 77 times in just one night after a prank caller instructed staff to do so. The center's leaders said such incidents are now in the past, and that they have made countless changes to our policies and procedures. You're not... You dumbasses aren't getting the point. It's not about, but those were isolated incidents. They're everyday incidents. Every day you shock one of those students for so-called aggressive behaviors such as blinking your eyes rapidly, you haven't changed shit. Okay? You are literally torturing someone for no reason at all. Behavior modification does not work as a treatment for people with neurodevelopmental disabilities. How stupid are you people? Autism is not a behavioral disorder. Down syndrome is not a behavioral disorder. Angelman syndrome, not a behavioral disorder. None of these are behavioral disorders. Why the hell are you trying to treat it with behavior modification? It doesn't make sense. God. Seriously? I've been holding that in since yesterday, can you tell? Including limits on using the device and special training to operate it. Yes, because that's going to fix everything. The center said it only uses shocks with approval from a patient's family and a local judge. Oh, because that makes everything better, doesn't it? If the family approves and the local judge, well, how dare you call it torture? I call it what it is. Family members of people with disabilities have freaking premeditatedly murdered their family members with disabilities. Okay? You have to excuse me if I don't think they're the final word on whether or not this is torture. As far as the court systems, if they can't see what's going on in that school is torture, they don't deserve to be on the bench. They don't deserve to have passed the bar. They deserve all of their licenses ripped from them. Sorry, not sorry. Flamia said that the shock treatment is necessary to prevent patients from violent self-injury. Necessary, because there is no other treatment that has been developed in the last 30 to 60 years that can also treat self-injury other than torture. Really? Like, what is this? The 1920s to 1800s? I'm pretty sure modern medicine has advanced a lot since then. And not to mention, Flamia, go tell that to the ARC. Literally an institution that at least dates back to World War II. That has existed far longer than the JRC. Their methods seem to be working beautifully. And you know what? They don't shock a single consumer that they have services for at all. Mystifying, isn't it? Supporters, many of them parents of the center's residents, say that the methods used by the center are the best and sometimes last hope to address some of the most difficult and developmental emotional disability cases in the country. That's because you drank the Kool-Aid. You drank the Kool-Aid. They have convinced you that there is only two choices. Drug your child into a stupor or let them get shocked to death. And that this is the only way that's going to help them. I understand there are parents in desperate situations. Again, I'm not just autistic. I have worked in the damn field. I've seen the houses with the bars on the windows and on the doors, okay? All right? Don't go and tell me I don't know. Because I've seen it. I have lived it. I have lived damn experience on top of having worked in the actual field. It is not that fucking bleak. There are multiple types of treatments out there that do not involve drugging your kid to the gills, or shocking them to death. Okay? God. Many residents at the center have severe autism disorders and are nonverbal and dangerously self-harming. Okay, let's just throw stigma in there. Not NBC News, but these parents. Let's throw stigma in there while we're at it. Because it's severe. And they're nonverbal. And they're violent. Bitch, if this is what you treated me like, you better bet I'm gonna be violent. I'm just saying. Some have been kicked out of or rejected by half a dozen other schools and treatment programs. Gee, I wonder why. You ever seen some of those schools? I have. They're built on an ableist structure, ladies and gentlemen, where you are in the slightest bit, a little bit different. They try to alienate you out. I know this because they tried it with me. Okay? They tried that shit with me. And it didn't fly. God. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center Parents Organization said in a statement that they supported the judge's decision. We will have and will continue to fight to keep our loved ones safe and alive and retain this life-saving treatment of last resort, the association said. Let's face it, you all drank the Kool-Aid, and you don't care what evidence is out there that what you put your kids through is horrific torture and abuse on a level that it boggles the mind, the level of evil you have allowed to be perpetrated on your kids. And instead of acting like a logical, loving parent who would have ripped their kids out of school and violently resisted the urge to burn the school to the ground, you just instead decide to play stupid, turn a blind eye to the point that you're willing to defend the monsters who are torturing your kids rather than face the truth of what you have allowed to happen to your own child. And I'm going to end on that note. So, folks, we don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do tend to get to be removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. Before we tell out of here, thank you NBC News for being the one major outlet I have seen so far that put out an actual, accurate, investigative report in regards to the bans, the overturn of them, and what this was all about. Thank you. I appreciate it. I would like to see more fair coverage as opposed to toting the JRC hardline. All right. I do thank you all for your time today. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.